Hello everyone, Namaste. So today, 13th May is the fourth birth anniversary of the history enthusiast. Me and Manali together had established the history enthusiasts on 13th May 2020. At first, it was just a Facebook page. Later on, the YouTube channel we established, and finally, it was a registered association. So today's our resource person is Dr. Vasant Shinde, sir, former Professor and Vice-Chancellor, Deccan College, Postgraduate and Research Institute, Pune. It is our lecture 10 under the title Dharohar, Itihasa Saptaha 4. The title on which Dr. Vasant Shinde sir is going to talk is Advances and Approaches to Scientific Archaeological Researches in India. I warmly welcome you to the platform of the history enthusiast, sir. Thank you so much for being with us and providing us your precious time to us. Thank you so much, sir. And I also welcome our honorary president Nandan Shastri ji and founder president Ms. Manali Momaya and all the audience who are joining us today, our core committee members and advisory members too. Uh, there is one disclaimer before we start. This lecture will be recorded version, so you can put your comments, questions, doubts in the comment section. Um, take those questions and inform our resource person and get back with the answers to you. Thank you so much. And now I request Ms. Manali Mumaya to introduce our today's resource person. Over to you, Manali.
Thank you very much, Nidhi. Welcome you to this session and happy birthday to the history enthusiasts. So it is a very a great fortune for me to introduce Dr. Vasant Shinde sir. I had the good luck of meeting sir last month. Professor Vasant Shinde boasts an illustrious career spanning over 4 decades, during which he has left an indelible mark on the field of archaeology. Having served as a professor and vice chancellor at Deccan College, Pune, and as the founding director general of the National Maritime Heritage Complex in Gandhinagar, his expertise is recognized worldwide. Currently, he holds the positions of adjunct professor at the National Institute of Advanced Studies in Bangalore and director of the Rakhi Gadi Research Project. Professor Shinde's academic journey commenced at the University of Pune, where he earned his bachelor degree in history. He then pursued his passion for archaeology at the Deccan College, attaining his master's in Ancient Indian History, Culture, and Archaeology. His academic prowess was further exemplified by his PhD in Protohistoric Archaeology at the same institution. Notably, his contributions to academia were acknowledged with honorary D.Litt degree by the Vikramshila Hindi University. In addition to his extensive academic credentials, Professor Shinde has been at the forefront of archaeological research and education for over 4 decades. He has led excavations at prominent sites across India, spanning from Harappan settlements to Chalcolithic and prehistoric sites. Internationally, he has collaborated with esteemed institutions such as the Universities of Pennsylvania and Wisconsin in USA, as well as institutions in UK, Japan, South Korea, and beyond. Presently, he has been directing a very prestigious international research project at the largest Harappan site of Rakhi Gadi in Haryana. In the course of his research work, Professor Shinde has also traveled extensively and delivered lectures in countries throughout Europe, Asia, North and Central America. He has also visited and worked with more than 17 international museums around the world, analyzing material ranging from prehistoric to late medieval period. He has been awarded a number of honors and scholarships from various national and international bodies, of which 100 most influential vice chancellors by the World Education Congress and Devang Mehta National Education Award for outstanding contribution to education are the two most noteworthy. His contributions to archaeology in India and abroad take the form of a large number of research papers, edited volumes, and other publications that several crucial elements of South Asian archaeology, from hitherto unknown protohistoric cultural phases to models of urbanization in Mewar, Rajasthan, owe their discovery to him. His most significant breakthrough research contribution includes first aDNA analysis and craniofacial reconstruction of Harappan people. The research paper on the DNA of the Harappan people was declared by Conference of Genomics as one of the 9 breakthrough researches in the world in 2019. Sir has also initiated several levels of international collaborations with institutions around the world, and he established Society of South Asian Archaeology, that is SOSA, with a view to promoting young scholarship and further global collaboration. Safeguard cultural heritage and promote awareness among the general public. Sir's academic administrative acumen is equally noteworthy, having served on numerous committees and held pivotal positions such as Pro Vice Chancellor and Vice Chancellor at Deccan College. So, throughout his esteemed career, Professor Shinde's contribution to archaeology has been vast and varied, and uh, it has solidified his position as a preeminent figure in the field of South Asian archaeology. And it is our honor to have such a multifaceted and scholarly person on the platform of the history enthusiast. Now I request Professor Vasant Shinde sir to begin his address.
Thank you very much, both Nidhi, Manali, for inviting Dr. Shastriji also for inviting me. This is an honor. I'm so happy to learn about this organization that you are running, and I'm really happy that you are doing such a good outreach program work in the country, which is required. So this is an important occasion, but unfortunately, I am not able to present physically in the evening. But I am happy that I am able to at least record my lecture and present it to the audience. So thanks for your efforts in this particular respect. So as discussed, we I will be talking about the advances and approaches to scientific archaeological researches in India, and how important this particular approach is. Because of the scientific approaches, we have been able to maybe unravel a lot of hidden aspects of ancient culture. Otherwise, those aspects would not have been reconstructed or known to the people. So what I'll do, I'll just give you the example of the research that we have done at the site of Rakhigadi. And at Rakhigadi, we were able to introduce most of the important scientific approaches that are required, in fact, in this particular field. So that now the history writing began with the establishment of Asiatic Society that happened on 15 January 1784 by William Jones. William Jones, of course, he came as an administrator, as a legal advisor to the government, British government in India. But when he came here, in fact, he realized that unless we understand the culture, local culture, the culture of this particular country, perhaps we will not be able to provide or effectively rule this particular country. And with this particular objective, he began this particular organization, and then it became a very important organization because the scientific or the systematic writing of Indian history began after this. So this was a very important event in South Asia. The other important event in South Asia was in 1840s. Sir Alexander Cunningham, he studied the textual sources, the Buddhist sources particularly, and also the foreign travelers' account, and he collected information about the different places mentioned in the text. And that is not only that's not only all he did, but what he did, that he went further and he also located the sites on the basis of description given in the text. So that is a very important research methodology that was introduced by him, and this particular methodology was continued subsequently by Professor B.B. Lal when he started, this Mahabharat project, and I'm going to talk about that also. But then, the next important event was in 1861 when the Archaeological Survey of India was established. And you know that, the importance of this particular organization. The ASI, Archaeological Survey of India, is the custodian of Indian heritage and culture. And they are also doing research, very important research and scientific also approaches they're adopting, and their presence all over the country is also important. Then, of course, the discovery of the Harappan civilization in 1920 was a very important event in the history of South Asia, because before the discovery of Harappan civilization, most of the scholars were of the opinion that there is a gap in the history of South Asia. Particularly, Vincent Smith had mentioned in his book that India jumps from Stone Age to the Stupa period or the Buddhist period, and there is a hiatus in the history of South Asia. So that so-called hiatus, because that time not much research was done, and therefore scholars thought that the settled life in Indian subcontinent began much later. But with the discovery of the Harappan civilization, that so-called gap was completely was filled in, and now India boasts of a complete history, continuous history for almost 2 million years. The earliest stone tools discovered in Indian subcontinent are dated to around 2 million years. So from that period till today, we have continuity. Then, the next important event was in 1950s when Professor B.B. Lal, he formulated the Mahabharat project, under which he followed the methodology that was suggested by Sir Alexander Cunningham. He also dug out information from the epics from Mahabharata, and some of the important sites mentioned in Mahabharata were noted by him, particularly the site of Hastinapur, the site of Indraprasth, which is the Purana Killa part of Delhi, then Aichatra, and various other sites were discovered by him. And he went one step further of Sir Alexander Cunningham. He actually carried out the excavation at all the sites, and that he important sites like Hastinapur, Aichatra, Indraprasth, etc. And here he found one culture, which is the painted graver culture, which was common at all the sites. So initially, he tried to look, connect this particular culture to Mahabharat period, and he thought that this is a phase which can be connected to the Mahabharat period. But later he realized that there is a lot of discrepancy between the actual evidence and the description given in the text. And later, he had to admit that perhaps this may not be the period associated with Mahabharata. But what is important here is not the conclusions that are drawn, but the research approach that he initiated is very important. And this is his important contributions. That we have a lot of early texts, in fact, in India. We have Rigvedic texts, Vedic texts, later Vedic texts, and also classical textual sources. But these texts have some limitations and some lacuna. For example, we are not really able to date the early literature in Indian subcontinent, particularly the Rigveda and some of the Vedic literature. We do not know. Even we have not been able to date this epic literature, Mahabharata and Ramayana. So even though we have a lot of information in this literature, sometimes because of these limitations, we are not really able to use them effectively for writing history. Secondly, we also have classical textual sources, from the early strike period onward. But the problem with these classical sources are that they do not talk about the common people. They have been written on behalf of the rulers, so naturally, they will paint a rosy picture of that particular period. So because of this, we find a lot of exaggeration in fact in the textual sources. Sometimes, they are not in tune with the reality. So that is the limitations and the lacunas in the textual sources. But in India in 1980s, there was a very important approach introduced by one scholar called R.S. Sharma. He was the first scholar to synthesize the archaeological and literary sources. Nobody did that before R.S. Sharma in 1980s. What he did, in fact, we know that we uh, we say that the Gupta age is the golden age in ancient Indian history, and you know that the Gupta history was written mostly on account of the textual sources. We have Prayag Prasasti of Samudragupta. We have a lot of inscriptions. Also, there was a lot of tremendous development in art and literature, architecture, etc. And also, Samudragupta had issued golden coins. So, on account of this, it was thought that this is a golden age in ancient Indian history. But R.S. Sharma, when he started, correlating, the archaeological sources with the textual description, then he found a lot of discrepancy. He found that there are few sites, of the Gupta period, which is not a, sign of a golden age, according to him. Then, he also considered the Gupta and Kushan period for comparative analysis. And he found that, the Kushan period was much more, flourish, period. There were more sites of the Kushan period compared to Gupta period. Then, he also noticed that, that Gupta, this Gupta period or the, phase is on top of the Kushan period. And when these some of the sites were excavated, they found some good remains of architecture, and the remains from Kushan period were really very very good in the sense that they were large structures, they were very well made structures. Also, the Kushan period people, they produce their own building material. This was not the case in the Gupta period. The structures found in Gupta period were small, they were not really well made. And what is important that the Gupta people did not produce their own building material. They knew that they were sitting on top of the early levels, so they dug in the lower levels, took out the bricks from the lower levels, and sometimes used for their own construction. So when he saw this particular evidence, he came to the conclusion that perhaps Gupta age was not the golden age in ancient Indian history. Maybe Kushan was the golden age, and this was based on his comparative analysis and the approach that he undertook, for his research. So this is a important, methodology again. People may agree with him or disagree, but the methodology that was introduced is very important. So what ultimately, we feel that these archaeological sources are so important. They are the authentic sources, and there's a lot of development in archaeological theories and methods. And from traditional archaeology, we have moved to new archaeology, then processual and processual archaeology. So archaeology is developing fast and constantly. And now we have been bringing in a lot of different sciences, and these sciences are helping us to resolve some of the riddles that we find in ancient Indian history. So this is a very very important, and the methodology that we adopted, particularly the new geophysical methods of investigation that we adopted at Rakigadi, and also the various other scientific methods that we applied at Rakigadi. I would like to discuss about that, about this in my lecture. So that Rakigadi is one of the important Harappan sites. Uh, we have discovered nearly 2,000 Harappan sites or more, and out of that, there are five cities. And Rakhigali is the biggest Harappan city, which flourished from almost from 6,000 BCE to 1800 BCE. So this is the period of this entire culture at Rakhigali. So here in the picture you can see a part of the site. This is a very huge site, nearly spread over an area of 550 hectare that we calculated with the help of the latest geophysical instruments. But maybe very small portion, maybe 1/10 of the site is surviving today. Most of the part, the site has been destroyed by the local people. So what you are seeing in this picture is, of course, the whole village is sitting on top of the uh, ancient site. Only small portion is visible, and it is not a small, in fact, almost 30 to 40 hectare area which is visible, and that part is one of the very important part of the site which is protected by the Archaeological Survey of India. Now you can see here in this picture, how well some part of the site is well protected and well preserved. So this is a very important site. Then, as I mentioned, that in order to calculate the total area and to understand and protect the maybe the morphology of the site, we undertook this geophysical investigation at the site. So we carried out very intensively the survey of the site. We used the latest total station equipment for preparing the contour, and we have been able to produce 3D contours of the site. You know that when we excavate the site, maybe we also destroy the morphology of the site, but that morphology can be preserved with the help of this type of mapping that we have done at the site. So we have done that at the site of Rakhigali. Secondly, we also applied the electric resistivity survey and GPR survey. These are very important methods to understand what is lying below in at the site. So we had very systematic survey of these at the site. We in fact established a small station, the geophysical station at the site, and here we have done extensive research in uh, in understanding the various facets of the ancient site even without the excavation. So the survey that we did with the help of GPR, ground penetrating radar system, that has produced good results for us. We had established a station. In fact, we had this transmitter located on this. Then also we had a receiver, we had control unit, and also that data was transferred to our laptops. So we were able to generate some good data from this particular site. So you can see here in this particular picture that there are different patterns that we get, different patterns of the GPR survey, and these patterns are studied and they are interpreted with the help of the experts. So we were able to locate some of the different activity areas with the help of these, and that helped us in locating some of the important areas of the site. So this is an important method that we recommend that this type of method should be applied wherever possible at the ancient site. So even without the excavation, one can extract maximum information about the site. Then second approach that we did was the sampling of the site. Generally, it is believed that the remains that are lying on the surface, that gives us some information about what is lying immediately below that. So generally, it is also believed that the material lying on the surface has not much moved away from its original source or the in situ source. So that also gives us some information about the different activity areas. So the method of this sampling is that we generally grid the site. Here we have gridded these two important mounds, mound number 2 and 3. These are the most impact, intact mounds at the site of Rakhigarhi. And we graded them, into 5 meter by 5 meter grids, and then we collected the material lying on the surface in each grid that was kept separately, that was analyzed separately, and at the end of that we find a lot of uh, rather we were able to identify different activity areas. For example, we have been able to identify different craft manufacturing activities on mound number 2, and that was reflected in fact in our data. We were able to identify where the where are the big structures uh, based on our research. We were also able to identify where the copper objects were manufactured, where the the stone objects were manufactured, where beads were manufactured, where the terracotta bangles were manufactured, etc. So there, we were able to get some good data based on our surface research. And in order to test, because on the basis of surface data and analysis, we had formulated some hypotheses, and we wanted to check those hypotheses by carrying out the actual excavation. So we carried out some limited excavation to check the hypothesis on mound number 2. And in this, you can see that in this particular map or in this particular slide, you can see there are different structures. We have excavated a very long index range, starting from at the top of the site, and we took it down up to the ground level, up to the natural level. And there were something like 23-meter deposit, and there were different levels, and in each level we found the evidence of manufacturing activities, and that's that continued from from level to level. So this is also important that the certainly the craft manufacturing was done at the site of Rakhigarhi, but this particular craft also succeeded, hereditary succeeded, in fact, from one level to another level, and that is the kind of evidence that we found. So this was possible because of our approach that we adopted. Then also we were interested to understand the history of the site. It is very important that before the excavation, one needs to understand the complete sequence and the history of the site. So there also we took one on mound number 4, which is the thickest mound at the site of Rakhigarhi. So here we took one trench on on the highest point of the mound, and that trench was taken down up to the natural level. So in this 23-meter deposit, we have been able to understand how the culture has transformed from early levels to the mature levels or the Harappan civilization phase. So that was very well documented because we had not really understood this process properly before. We knew that this mature Harappan or the urban phase of the Harappan culture or Harappan civilization that emerged from the early Harappan phase. That was quite clear in fact, but that process was not understood earlier. But because of this excavation and the approach that we undertook, we were able to understand that particular process very well. Then we also wanted to know about the people, who exactly these people are, and simply by observing the skeletal remains, perhaps you will not be able to get idea about the people or their genetic history. So one of the important approaches that we adopted, and we knew that unless we get some maybe some DNA from the ancient skeletal remains, perhaps nobody will be able to understand the genetic history of the South Asian people or the Harappan people. So from that point of view, in fact, we started this particular research. But let me tell you that this our research at Rakhigarhi happened between 2011 and 2016. But before that, in 2007 and 8, I also excavated one site called Farmana. Farmana has, which is roughly 30 kilometers away from Rakhigarhi, and Farmana has one of the largest Harappan cemeteries. So here also we excavated this particular cemetery, and one of the objectives we had at the site, at the site of Farmana, was to understand, the genetic history of the Harappans, for which, we wanted to also extract DNA from the skeletal remains. But the methodology that we adopted at Farmana was the conventional method. We did not take proper precaution there, and because of our approach, because we were not really ready for the ancient DNA research at the site of Farmana, and therefore we miserably failed. At the end, we excavated nearly 70 burials at Farmana, and we investigated each and every burial, but we did not find any any DNA traces in all these skeletal remains that we excavated. We kept, we opened all these skeletal remains at one and the same time. We kept them open for nearly 2 months because our objective was that people should come and see, so that there should not be any misunderstanding. But that backfired, because we whatever DNA was there, that had completely escaped from the skeletal remains. And that in India particularly, the climatic condition, the ecological condition, the condition of the soil is not conducive for the preservation of organic matter, including DNA. So it was very difficult to get DNA because of these particular limitations. But then when we started the work at the site of Rakigadi, we got some input from international scholars about the approach that we should adopt. And it was suggested to us that we should take proper precaution, because the DNA is so sensitive that it can get into ancient DNA. And therefore we took this type of precaution. What we are seeing here, we started using the PPE kit, and we took proper precaution. But in spite of all this, we took precaution. We found DNA, in one skeletal remains, and when we analyzed that, we found some traces of the East Asian population, in the Harappan genes. There was no way, because Harappans never had contact with the East Asian population. And then we were wondering how this particular the element is found in the Harappan skeletal remains. And when on investigation, we realized that one of our students was from Korea, and in spite of taking all the precautions, his DNA got into ancient DNA. So you can realize how sensitive this particular data is. So you have to take a lot of precautions. So that precaution was taken by us. So this, by using this precaution, taking this precaution, we excavated the burials. Also, the sampling was done. Also, this is the kind of data that we find. So this data is very important. So we found a lot of burials, excavated burials, and this the status of the people, person varies from from burial to burial. There are maybe some slight variation in the economic condition and social condition or social hierarchy, because of which we find the quality and the quantity of the burial goods differing from burial to burial. So that aspect also we studied, and we also did a lot of scientific research. So after the excavation, of course, the lot of sampling was done. In fact, we also collaborated with the Korean scientists, and they have developed one technique called the paleo parasitology, methodology that they have developed. In fact, in our body, we have the parasite eggs, and after the death, the body disintegrates, but the parasite eggs survive. So the Korean scientists had recovered some of the parasite eggs from the ancient mummies found in Korea. They were not very old, of course, 500, 600 years old. And from the parasite eggs, they could identify the DNA of the person. So we also wanted to see whether the parasite eggs are surviving in the Harappan burials, and therefore we did a lot of sampling. But ultimately, we did not find any parasite eggs. But this method was adopted by us. Then when it comes to the packing, and cleaning of the samples in the laboratory, we took the similar precaution so that there is no contamination happening. So this is very important. Why I'm showing this, because whosoever wants to excavate ancient maybe burials or the cemetery, he or she should take proper precaution for the during the excavation. So what we did, our method was very simple here. We transported the samples to Deccan College. We changed the methodology here completely. We targeted one burial at a time. We excavated that burial, and immediately we documented that burial, and then we removed the bones and transported the samples to our Deccan College laboratory. Because of this particular procedure that we followed at the site of Rakigadi, the we were able to get a DNA at least from one skeletal remains. So apart from that, our approach was different also. We wanted to apply many other scientific methods to understand various aspects of the Harappan civilization. So what we did, we brought the samples to our Deccan College laboratory. We did the anthropological examination, with the help of the experts. We studied the skeletal remains from anthropological point of view, and we have published that data immediately after that. Then we also, did the CT scanning of some of the skeletal remains, and that scanning was done mostly for the craniofacial reconstruction. This is the 3D reconstruction of the Harappan facial features, and this is done for the first time. Then also we did some sampling for paleoparasitology. We also did sampling for ancient DNA, and also for various other scientific methods. We applied this stable isotope analysis, then also residue analysis, then starch grain analysis, lipid profile, and even this various other known scientific methods that we wanted to apply, so that we get as much information as possible about the genetic history of the people, about their diet, their health. So because of this approach, we were able to get so much information from the ancient skeletal remains. So this is very important. This is the skeletal remain that has provided us the ancient DNA of the Harappans, and this sample is very important because we were able to identify the genetic history of the South Asians, and also its implication on Indian history, that I'm not going to speak today. Of course, this was published in ancient, one of the top international scientific journal called Shale, and the title itself indicates that ancient Harappan genome lacks ancestry from steppe pastoralists or Iranian farmers. So very important research that we did, and that this particular research was recognized as one of the 9 breakthrough researches carried out in the world in 2019. There's a big international congress on genomics, and they do identify these type of breakthrough researches in the world. And this was one of the important recognition that we found from them. And you can see this is the trophy that they gave us for this particular recognition. Then, of course, we also studied, how there was a movement, in fact, or the spread of the Harappan genes in major part of South Asia. So Harappans were not the only people living in South Asia that time. There were a number of contemporary cultures living in different parts. We had, Neolithic farmers, Chalcolithic farmers in different parts of South Asia, and the Harappans and the Chalcolithic farmers, Neolithic farmers, they had proper interaction for trade purpose. So this map gives you idea about that the whole of South Asia was occupied. Then also we did the sampling of the modern population, in fact, because if you want to really understand the maybe the continuity of the the DNA or the genetic history, you need to compare with the modern population also. So we did that. We analyzed nearly 3,000 people, and then we analyzed their DNA, and we found that most of the people, we found a strong indication that most of us from Andaman Nicobar to Kashmir and Ladakh, and from Afghanistan to Bengal, most of us are carrying the Harappan genes. So this result we could achieve because of our approach that we adopted at the site of Rakhigarhi. And then, of course, finally, we did also the facial reconstruction. So for facial reconstruction, of course, we need two sets of data. One is that we need inner anatomy of the people of uh, people, those who of whose 3D reconstruction we were doing. So we did this 3D. We did this CT scanning of this, and we found we got the inner anatomical data. And then, of course, we also, when we were excavating, we also collected other data, the matrix data, the measurements of the bone. So that we did, in fact, when we excavated the skeletal remains. So that this inner anatomical data that we retrieved through CT scanning and the matrix data, that was fed in the computer. We had developed a program for the 3D reconstruction, and that program, once this data is fed in that, then it starts generating the 3D reconstruction of the facial feature. So you can start, we started with the reconstruction of this facial feature, or the skull feature of this, of the ancient remains. And then, of course, step by step, it has reconstructed the facial feature. And finally, we could show how exactly the Harappan people look like. So this is possible, of course, because of the various scientific methods that we adopted. And what we did here is very important to understand the continuity for last maybe 10,000 years. We generated three sets of data. One, of course, the archaeological data, which has given us a complete continuity from Harappan till modern times. Then we also have the genetic history, genetic data. That genetic data also gives us complete history from from Harappans till modern times. And then, of course, the third evidence that we use, the appearance of the people. So there is a continuity from Harappans till modern times. Now, in this picture, you can see on one side is the Harappan boy, and on the other side is the modern Haryana boy. In the lower is the Harappan woman, and on the right side is the modern woman. So you can see the similarity between the Harappans and the modern people. So there is a continuity in that also. So these three sources that we have used, that has given us some idea about the continuity that has happened in South Asia for such a long period. And this we could establish because of the scientific method that we adopted in different parts of South Asia. And finally, I would also like to mention that we also did, wherever we carry out the excavation, we do a lot of community archaeology or outreach program. And in order to protect the site, we make awareness about the people, among the people. We tell them the significance of the site that is present in the proximity, and how important this is, and what maybe what benefit that you can get from this, from the presence of the site, that we present to the people. And if you are successful, in fact, in convincing the people the importance and the significance, then those people come forward, and they themselves start participating in the protection of the site. And this is a very important, that apart from scientific research that we are doing, we also need to do this type of outreach program or community, or these this type of program that I'm discussing. So this is also important part of the research that we do. and also some of the sites needs to be protected and developed from tourism point of view also. So we were thinking how the site of Rakhigarhi can be protected. So these are some of the models that we are developed, and I'm happy to mention that the Archaeological Survey of India now they have raised these type of dome-like structures on some of the remains that they have excavated, and the site is now protected. Part of the site is protected, so people can go there anytime. They can have a they can walk through the Harappan street, they can feel the Harappan bricks, Harappan material. So that is required because ultimately people have the right in fact to know about what is their culture, and this is how the tourism industry can be developed in India. So this is what I wanted to tell, that how the scientific research is important, what aspects can be brought out, what information can be collected through these scientific methods, and how it helps us in understanding a lot of mysteries that happened in the past. Through this we will be able to understand. So this is very important. And lastly, this is that one should also make efforts to protect the heritage, because we have so much heritage in South Asia. In each nook and corner we have heritage, and unless there is a participation of the local people, perhaps we will not be able to protect our such a vast heritage, and we need to make efforts in that particular respect. So thank you very much. I take this opportunity again to thank this the history enthusiast group and all of you for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to interact more in fact in future also. Thank you very much.
So we have to thank you, in fact, sir, because this was a very, very insightful and informative lecture that has shown so many new prospects in archaeology to young scholars like us, and how we have to work with the scientific temperament, and how we have to make utmost use of modern technology in solving past mysteries. You have shown that to us, sir. Thank you very much for that.
See,
And
I think
despite
what
your
is
busy,
important. What is important is that,
yes, sir.
see, when a lot of people have the tendency to say that no, I don't agree with your research, but that will not work. If you don't agree with your research, then you have to produce some similar kind of research to disprove our research.
True.
So any issue that we have, we cannot simply say that I do not agree with the other scholar. You disprove the other scholar with your research, with your scientific approach. Then only people will accept. So that I think all this young people should realize the importance of this type of rigorous scientific approaches that we adopt, and what are the importance and implications of these. That is very important. So if
Absolutely, sir.
anybody has any question, because I will not be present that time, but you can collect the questions and send to me. I will be happy to reply their queries also.
Yes, sir. So, can I ask a question that I have right now?
Yeah, please,
Uh,
yes.
Sir, in the burials and even during excavation, you might have found grains also, food grains. Can plant DNA also be similarly studied?
Yeah,
And
plant DNA is possible. I think in India we are not doing much, but I was in Japan, and the Japanese were doing a lot of the genetic history of the plant also there. So we unfortunately what we get mostly the charred remains of the organic matter, and because of that we are not really able to get proper samples for the genetic research. But with efforts like the type of efforts that we did, if we can do this type of persuasive research or efforts, perhaps you will be able to get samples for that also. So we have to have this type of rigorous scientific approaches for analyzing the data also.
absolutely, sir. Sir, Nandan sir has just written one comment in the chat. Even
Can you just,
non-destructive methods to
yeah,
determine percentages of trace.
Can you just hold
Yes,
for a
sir.
minute because I have to connect my charger here.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead, Nandanji. Please.
Yes, sir. Nandan sir has written even non-destructive methods to determine percentages of trace elements like EDXRF analysis is very promising one for the bronzes.
Yeah, in fact, no, we have done a lot of this XRD,
Mm,
XRF, XRF analysis also on these ancient remains. So these are very, very important methods, that. But XRD, XRF, we have been using them for last maybe almost 20 years now. So we know the importance of that. I just spoke only about those methods which we have introduced recently.
mm.
But certainly, these non-destructive methods are very, very important, and we have been using them on the stone material, on metal, also on clay, material also. So they are very, very important, of course. And we have to combine all these different
Yes, sir.
methods that we
Sir,
use. Yeah, please.
yes, sir. Last question is by Nidhi. Uh, what could be the reason for the early death of the 18-year-old boy whose skeleton was found there? Has it been
Uh,
determined?
no, that we tried to find out, but we did not find any trace of any pathology in that particular boy. Neither there was any injury marks on his body. So we don't know exactly how this particular boy died. But we do get sometimes we get skeletal remains of even children and also the adults also. And sometimes we are not really able to detect the cause of the death sometimes. So in this case also we were not really able to find out that. But if we can
Yes.
apply various methods, we can find out what exactly caused the death of. For example, we found on one skeleton remain, we found this injury marks on the head of one's person. And when we analyzed that, we found out this particular person died because of this injury on the head. So sometimes we can, of course, we can find out. Sometimes if there is a disease prevalent, and the person has died because of some disease, perhaps that is also possible to detect. But in case the person dies because of maybe heart attack or maybe something like that, perhaps it is not possible to detect easily.
Sir, from a geologist's perspective, the best ideal condition for preservation is in permafrost regions like Siberia, where
Yes, yes,
the condition is snow remains throughout the year. So the
right.
fossil remains also remain very intact for the analysis. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, even the Scandinavian countries also,
Mm,
that is the best area for the preservation. And the
mm.
soil there is more alkaline soil, which is good for the preservation. So they, in fact, know that they found 5,000 years old that ice man, and everything was so well preserved. But here the climate is different and the condition is not good for the preservation. Therefore, only we find the skeletal remains because the bones generally don't get destroyed.
And sir, before proposing vote of thanks to you, uh, let me give one concrete example the role CCMB has played for our university museum at Sardar Patel University. We received of artwork from an artist from Jaipur. uh, of paintings of Krishna Lila done
Hmm.
on two halves of a tamarind seed. And in spite of giving chemical treatment, some microorganisms develop. So we sent that specimen to CCMB, and by gamma radiation, the organisms were eradicated completely, permanently, and we were
Right.
able to display the specimen in our showcase. So thanks for the role of CCMB
No, no,
also.
CCB is
Yeah.
doing such a CCB is
Yes,
doing such a great, pioneer research. You know that, the co vaccine was developed by CCMB,
yes.
and then it was produced by Bharat Biotech. So they are, into this scientific temper they are using, and they're applying that all over.
May I propose vote of thanks now,
Thank you
Manali?
very much. Uh, yes, yes. I was just going to invite you, sir. And we have come to the end of this very wonderful, very informative lecture. This was the last lecture of the Itihas Saptaha. And I now request our Honorary President, Shri Nandan Shastri, sir, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
It is a great pleasure for me to propose vote of thanks to our today's dignitary and the scholar of international reputation, Professor Vasant Shinde. Our horizons have been widened after listening and seeing these slides presented by him on this subject, practice and approaches to scientific archaeological research in India. I thank Nidhi for welcoming him and to Manali to give us his wonderful uh, brief introduction. And thanks are also due to Nidhi for doing wonderful liaison with Professor Vasantji for planning today's talk. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We look forward to interact more.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I also want to
Thank
thank all the speakers who have presented their valuable thoughts throughout this Itihas Saptaha. And my special thanks to our Honorary President, Shri Nandan Shastri, sir, who attended each and every lecture from start to end without fail, and for his unwavering support to us. We are both young researchers, and we are very much inexperienced in a lot of things, and the guidance of all our elders, including our resource persons, has been very, very valuable to us. And my special thanks to all the viewers who have watched us and supported us. We are signing off here. We will be coming back with many more new academic endeavors, and hoping for the same enthusiasm and support from you all. Thank you all very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.